Hey y'all, what is up? Welcome to the Stay Human podcast. I am super excited today because we got food on the show, yo. We got food. My goal over the next 40 minutes is to make you freaking hungry. That's what I want to do. Hungry for food, hungry for inspiration, hungry for great storytelling. And to that end, I have an award-winning chef, author, television personality, and founding partner and president of Morph Hospitality Group in Nashville. She's on the Food Network's Chopped. She has, I don't know how many, you'll tell me in a minute how many different restaurants you've got. You've got 2 cookbooks out, just so many amazing things that you're doing. Please welcome to the show, Maneet Chauhan.
Thank you so much, Michael. This is so exciting. You know what? You just continue talking. I'll just sit over here and bask in the glory. It's doing wonders for my ego. Yes.
Well, Maneet, one of the things that I love about you as I've been watching you on, whether it's your Instagram or whether it's the shows that you're on or whether it's just some YouTube thing or a TED Talk, whatever it is just that you really are your authentic self. And you come off as just somebody who is in love with food and wants to tell the world about how to do the things that you do that excite you in the food world. And you know, in the food, I guess in the food broadcasting world, there's people who play these roles. There's like the Iron Chef, and he's yelling at people, and this other guy's cursing at his team, and there's this, and you just come off as like this person who's just like, come to my kitchen, let's hang out, let's talk story, let's make something. What do you want to make? I got this idea, let's throw these things together. And so I just love that about you, and I want to know, like, where did this come from? How did you grow up? What is your origin?
Oh my God. So I was born in India, in northern India, in Punjab. That's where my grandparents are from. And I grew up in a small town in eastern India called Ranchi. And
when you say small, how many people were in there?
I really wouldn't know.
I mean, is it like rural, like there's hundreds of people?
No, it would be, I mean, you know, when you compare, like, you know, as you can see in Asia, the scales are very different, yes. Right? I would say that it would be a small town like, you know, the town when I came over here to go to school, Poughkeepsie, right? Okay. So which is a smaller town. It's not New York, right? Yeah. And when I was growing up, it actually was a really small town. It was, my dad was, he was an engineer, my mom a school teacher. And it was really interesting because we grew up in, you know, in a community where there were people from different states of India. And like in a lot of places across the world, each and every state had a very regional cuisine of its own. So I grew up in a household where there was Punjabi food being cooked. But my neighbors were from, you know, Eastern India or from Southern India or from Western India. And I used to be this obnoxious kid who would finish dinner at home and then go over to their places, you know, and tell them that my parents hadn't fed me, so could I eat with them, right? So it was incredible because to me, not only was the fascination of the different ingredients being used or the taste of the food, but it was the stories behind the food. And very early on, I realized that food was one of the greatest connectors on this planet. Like I could literally walk up to anybody and have a conversation with them just around food. And that I think was a very empowering, you know, moment, because even when my older sister went to do her, you know, when she went to do her undergrad, I would go to meet her and I would take food. And soon I realized I was the most popular kid on campus and I didn't even go to school there. And I'm like, that was my aha moment that, you know what, this is something I love and people love me for it. So why shouldn't I do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you're growing up, like First of all, your parents must have just really loved that. Like, I'm here because my parents didn't feed me. They must have loved that. So, was your family? I say this because my wife is Persian, and she's from an immigrant family. Her father is also an engineer. Her mom was a nurse, and there was so much pressure in her life to become doctor, dentist, engineer. You know, and I'm wondering, as you, as a girl growing up in this small town in India, did you feel those pressures from the community, from your family?
I did feel the pressure more from the community than from the family.
Hmm.
It was really interesting. I think the only thing that my parents ever told me was do what you want, but make sure that you're the best at it. Right.
Hmm.
But it was the community which was really interesting when I decided that I wanted to do hotel management. I mean, there were neighbors who would come and give unsolicited advice that she's not that dumb. If she studies hard enough, she could be an engineer or a doctor. And they're like, back off. She doesn't want to do that. Right. So
Yeah.
it was really, it was interesting. I think I could do what I wanted to do because of the support that I had. But
Well, where
it
did
definitely,
sorry, how did that support come about? Like, is that, was that happening in other households around your community, or why were your parents able to find that kind of
I think it
love
was
for you to
very,
enable you?
I think it was very generational. I mean, like, we come from a family of really strong, like, both my grandmothers were, like, they have incredible stories and very, very strong. And, my dad's mom was one of the few ladies who was working at the time when,
Hmm.
you know, India, women in India weren't working, right?
What kind of work
And
did she do?
she started off by being a teacher, then she became a principal, and then she started a business of her own, which was a Montessori teaching
Wow.
pre-K children. And that was really incredible. And then, of course, I heard incredible stories about both my grandmoms, like during partition, about what they had to go through, as refugees. So it was really incredible and really empowering. But I think a lot of it does stem from my dad refusing to there were times, Michael, it used to be so interesting that the four of us, that's my dad, my mom, my sister, and me, would be sitting on the dining table, and all four of us would be studying, us for school, and my mom doing her B.Ed, which was bachelor's in education, and my dad doing his master's in engineering. So it was, I mean, that was the environment that we grew up in. And it was
Yeah.
incredible because, like, literally they told us, like, my parents have told my sister and me repeatedly over and over again that, you know what, we don't come from a business family, we are not going to be leaving any fortune for you. The only thing we can give you is a very good education, so make sure
Mm.
that you make the best of it. So
Hmm.
I think that's the mantra that which has stayed very close to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting.
And so you said there was greater challenge from the community. How did that play out? Like when you were a young girl, is there times that you remember in school where there was something that a teacher or somebody, another students or whatever, who were saying, you can't do that. Like you've got to do this, or why are you showing up like this? Did they think you were weird or?
Yes, and I think weird is beautiful. That's what I tell my kids every day. I'm like, why be normal? I mean, it's so boring. But I think I have that really in Hindi, that word is kida, which means an insect, right? Like, in me, which is that, oh, you told me I can't do it, let me show you exactly how it's done. So I guess that kind of pushed me more towards doing things that I like, to prove the naysayers that yes, it can be done. And I think in a way I should thank them, because it pushed me even further to do what I have done and achieve what I have achieved.
Yeah. So, Tell me a little bit about your school. So you went to high school in your town, and then did you move on to go to university somewhere else,
Yeah.
or tell me
So,
about that?
so I did my high school, in India. Like, so we had our 10th grade till our convent school, then 11th and 12th was, another school. And then after that, it's absolutely insane. Like right now, I think about all the kids who are going through that, like, the admission process in India, because the population is so huge and the seats are so limited. Like, what the stress that kids go through is crazy, and we went through it ourselves. I applied for hotel management to, I think, three of the places, and that was it. And I got through all three of them, and then I made a decision based on which was the best institute in the country. And from this small town in eastern India, I ended up in this small university town in western coastal India. And it was the first time that I had left home, and I was living by myself. And that pretty much was the time that I left home, because after that, after undergrad, I came here to do my, post grad, and that was it. Like,
Yeah. So
it's
you
been
said it
here.
was a coastal town.
It was a coastal town. It
Was it
was
like
south.
a was it like a party town? Is it like a beach thing going on there?
Don't break my parents. It was south of Goa. So Goa,
Oh, oh
right?
yeah,
Goa is like the Ibiza of India, and we were
yeah.
like 3 or 4 hours of south of Goa. There's a small town which is called Mangalore, which is on the coast of southern coast of western coast of India, and we were around a couple of 10, 20 miles in from there. So let's say that a lot of our study holidays were spent in Goa. Just saying it.
So you get to the school there, and you're studying hospitality management. How many women were in the program were you in? Was there a lot in hospitality management?
Um, you know, it actually was a really good. It was a really good combination. I think we almost had a 40 to a 60%, which
Hmm.
which was very good in terms of you know um, uh, compared to other like engineering colleges, etc. Those were great numbers. Like I would talk to my sister and she would be like, yeah, in our class of 100 there are like 3 women, and to us in a class of around 100 we had around 40 women or
Yeah,
so it kind of worked.
yeah. So after you finished there, where did you go?
So during my hotel administration, I absolutely, we had to do our externship. So I did all my externships, and along the way, I kept on asking everybody which is the best culinary institute in the world to go to, because
Hmm.
at that time, I mean, to me, I think I had very early decided I wanted to be a chef, but in
Mm.
India, we did not have exclusive culinary programs per se. So you had to go through the entire hotel administration program, and then once you started working, you could diversify into the kitchen.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was really like, I was like, this is. I don't want to do this. Who wants to learn about, math and accounting and stuff? And now in hindsight, like, 20 years down, I'm like, thank God I did that, because I could,
Yeah.
as a restaurant owner, you need all of those skills. So it was really, it was really interesting. Everybody I spoke to, they were like, the CIA, which is the Culinary Institute of America, before you think I'm anything cooler than a chef.
Okay.
And they're like, that's the best institute, and that's what I did. I applied for it and I got admission, and after graduation from Manipal in India, I came here to the CIA.
Okay. And what was that like when you first arrived? Was that your first time in America?
It was my first time in America, and I literally thought that I knew everything about America, because I had grown up reading Archie comics, and I had seen Coming to America. So of course,
There you go.
you should know everything about America, right? It was
Yeah.
quite. It was a little bit of a shock to me, because I had come from the coolest school, in India, and we thought that we were like the coolest people. And then you come over here, and then you look around, and you're like, okay, how do I use a vending machine? What's that? That's $1. That's like 50 rupees. I can't be buying soda for it. So it was a very interesting, like it definitely was an adjustment, but it just was incredible, because especially at the CIA, because I was under the same roof as 2000 other people who were as obsessed with food as I was. It was just like incredible, like just to find people who speak the same language. It might
Yeah.
not be the same dialect, but it was the same language. Just the love for food was incredible. But of course, like it took me a long time to adjust. Like I would have each and every dish that was presented in front of me with copious amounts of Tabasco, because I thought that nothing had flavor.
Yeah.
And all my friends would make fun of me, but it was fun.
Well, tell me about that a little bit. You grew up in a place where you're eating all these different kinds of foods that are very distinct in their spices and flavors. And now you come to America and they're like, all right, we've got salt and this other stuff called boiling water. Put it together and tell me what you got. It's like how did that play in? Were you wanting to share your thing? Were you bored with it at first? Was it something that, just tell me about that.
Not really. To me, I think it was incredible in the sense of um, it gave me a very different perspective of a palate, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I came to the CIA, I became the tour guide, because it was this gorgeous Jesuit seminary, which became a culinary school. And because I was involved in everything on campus, I also became a tour guide. But to me, the most incredible part was we had an American restaurant which was called American Bounty. And the first time I went to that restaurant, to me, American cuisine meant, in my mind, in my perception, was hamburgers and hot dogs,
Yeah.
right? Because that is what people know. But I mean, if you think about Novo American cuisine, it is beautiful. I mean, you go to like, what they're doing at the West Coast and what all the chefs are doing right now, it is taking ingredients and celebrating the beauty of the raw ingredients, right? And highlighting that and showcasing that. And I think that was a very valuable experience for me, because if I hadn't had that experience, to me, I would have thought that each and every food needs to be smothered with spice to make it flavorful. And I think that is the experience which gave me a much more educated palate for being a chef, being a judge on Chopped, because then it gave me a wider perspective. It was beyond spices. It was,
Yeah.
yes, I appreciate spices. I know how to use spices, but I also appreciate just the most beautiful leek which has just been grilled with nothing on top of it, right?
Yeah.
So I just like my food encyclopedia or repertoire really grew thanks to CIA.
That's awesome. I really resonate with what you're just saying, because I love Italy. And one of the things I love about touring in Italy is we play a show and then we'll go out to a restaurant and we'll stay there until 2 or 3 in the morning, eating and talking and having something to drink. And the thing I love about Italian food so much is like they'll bring you some pasta, and like if I order a pasta dish at a restaurant in America, it's like, okay, what's in it? It's like tagliatelle, sun-dried tomatoes, parmesan, olives, blah 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 blah, like all these different things. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like picking through all this stuff. Some of the stuff I don't even like, and I push it to the side. But when I eat in Italy, it's like there's this beautiful pasta, there's some olive oil, and there's some garlic, and that's it. Done. It's
Oh,
over. And the thing is, or when I experience it, it's like this olive oil tastes like it was made by some monks in like a cave on a mountain who've been making this olive oil and perfecting it for 500 years. And this pasta tastes like it was from a farm that was like they made it this morning, or right before it went into the pot, and I love that about eating there. And I feel like what you just described, like we as Americans tend to think like, what more can I add? Because it doesn't taste like enough yet.
So true. It's like, let's take a burger, let's put it on pizza, let's go ahead and put extra cheese on it, let's put some fries on it. What? There isn't enough. Let's put a sundae on top of it. Now that
And then batter it and then fry
exactly,
it.
and then fry it. So true. But there is a charm in being a purist, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's like, if you know the foundation, then it's easy for you to build flavors on top of it. But if you don't know the foundation, then you just spend your entire life just trying to bury flavors. and
Mhm.
and that's one of my, when I have conversations with people and they're like, why is Indian food so complicated? I'm like, no, actually it isn't. You find it complicated because you're trying to hide flavors, not
Mm.
accentuate it. And I think that's where the disconnect happens.
Wow, that's really, really beautiful insight. It's the same thing when I make music. I always write the song first with just myself and a guitar, and then I start to decorate it with a drum beat and a bass line and some keyboards, and then there's always this process where I have to strip it back and go, well, what was right there? And the great thing about music is you can do that. You can't do it with food. Once it's in the pot, you can't extract all the Tabasco you threw in there. but there is this kind of like editing thing. And then as I've grown and done it longer, I've become wiser at it. And I'm always now trying to think, what is the least ingredients that I can get away with and still have it carry the weight, the meaning, the emotion, and less clutter to it, so that the words can really be heard.
So true. That is so true.
Tell me um, about your first venture into business. Like, it's one thing to be somebody who has a command of cooking and has an idea, like, here's foods I like, but it's a whole other thing to go, I'm gonna open this brick and mortar place, and now I've got to like market it, and I've got to get people to come to it, and I got to hire a team, and there's got to be some financial back to it, and what if I fail, and what, like all these things that go through your head. So tell me about that.
So I think one of the biggest things is that my husband Vivek and I, um, we are we knew each other when we were doing undergrad in India. It's as far back, and I stuck to the kitchen while he, went ahead and did his masters in tourism. He went to the University of Bournemouth. He, in fact, was in Indonesia for 4 years in Jakarta.
Wow.
He actually was named the businessman of the year in Indonesia. So it is, it's interesting, and he really has the business acumen. So when we started looking at different places, etc., and we got an opportunity to move to Nashville. We were in New York at that time. We literally
Mhm.
looked at each other. We're like, who the beep moves to Nashville? And we literally we are the kind of people who explore each and every opportunity which comes our way. So we came over here, and what we loved about Nashville was the opportunity that the city afforded us. So we started looking around, and I think that was the time that we realized that, this is going to be a really smart business move for us to open a restaurant, because there wasn't a concept like this in
Mhm.
Nashville. Not only that, I mean, uh, the word celebrity chef is so loosely thrown around in New York. Everybody is a celebrity chef, but it has a little bit more cachet over here, right? So,
Yeah.
so we were like, okay, we're going to come over here. Vivek had a couple of businesses in New York, and he's like, we'll open this, we'll set it up. We'll still be based out of New York, and we'll commute. We'll come once or twice a month between the two of us, and make sure that everything is going off great. Best business, best laid plans. Um, this is the South. Everything took a little longer than anticipated, a little longer. I'm saying that the project took a year over the 6 months that it was supposed to. And along the way, we found out we were expecting baby number two. And we were like,
Mm.
that's fine. We'll have the baby. We'll open the restaurant, go back to New York, have the baby. The baby had plans of his own. He decided to be born 3 months early the day we opened the restaurant. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so the day we opened the restaurant, both Vivek and I, we were not at the opening of the restaurant. We you kind of have to be at the hospital to give birth and that kind of stuff. So yeah, and then both of us we turned and we looked at each other. We are like, if he's so adamant in being a Nashvilleian, who are we to stop it? So
Mm.
we moved. We went back, wrapped up our house in New York, moved over here, and then we decided we are going to make the best of the situation, and we did. I mean, 4 years we opened four restaurants. Then we opened a brewery. We've got three breweries on a beer park, which is on 83 acres of land. So yeah, I mean, not good.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, you've got to
Um,
jump in the deep end and then you learn how to swim.
nice. Um, what do you like the most about your different hats that you wear? As a broadcaster, as a businesswoman, as a chef, as even as a mom. What is the part that you love about it the most?
I think the part which I love about all of these hats that I wear the most is creativity, because each
Hmm.
and every aspect, each and every job, from being a mom to being a business owner to being a chef to being on television, it requires creativity. It
Yeah.
requires creativity, and there is no stagnation, because to me the biggest thing about life is all about movement, right? Like
Hmm.
if you stop moving, then it's a full stop. And I need that movement. I am a very animated person, and I am constantly moving, and that's what I need in life. It needs to be constant evolution. So that's and you need creativity for that. So yeah, I think creativity is the common thread between everything that I do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Was there ever a point when food either saved your life or saved the life of somebody around you or just changed someone's perception or changed someone's mood? Like, was ever a time when you just felt like, here's somebody who's just really different than me, and they're coming into my space, and now I put the food down in front of them, and now their whole thing has changed? Is there been moments like that for you? Because I feel that with music. It's like I write a song and it's something that's really comes from my heart, and I always write songs about whatever it is that's breaking my heart or whatever that's bringing my heart great joy. And then when I play it for somebody else, I see them transform, and I see people's lives be changed, or lives even be saved at times. And music has done that for me throughout my life, not just as a writer of music, but as a listener of music. When I get into my spaces where I'm really, really down in a funk, and I put on a song, and it just makes me feel alive again. Do you have that experience with food or with your guests?
More often than not, and more so in Nashville than in New York, because you
Mm.
do. I think in New York there used to be that constant movement, right? Like you couldn't stop to relish this moment because you were thinking of the next five steps.
Yeah.
And over here, definitely. I mean, there's so many people who've come to the restaurant who've never had Indian food, and they taste it and they're
Mm.
like, oh, this is not curry. And I'm like, yeah, Indian food is not all about curry. It's not all about 8.95 all you can eat buffets. It's beyond that, right? But I think to me, one of the most I think profound moments was when this entire was actually exactly a year back, right?
Hmm.
When Nashville had just been hit by a tornado. And
Hmm.
we came back, and all of us started doing what we could. And we were hearing lingering, those faint background conversations of COVID. And then
Hmm.
suddenly, boom, right? We had to shut down all the restaurants. And at
Yeah.
that time, um, we literally rolled up our sleeves and just opened our kitchens and opened our pantries and we are like, guys, just come and take whatever you want. And the fact that people were just coming and picking up rice and being so grateful about it was,
Mm.
it just gave me goosebumps. And that really inspired us to reach out to our vendors, who we knew that they had so much stuff which was going to be, which was going to be perishable. And there was a day that we had our vendors come and drop off 660 cases of produce, vegetables and fruits in our
Hmm.
parking lot. And we coordinated people coming and picking it up. And we I went and dropped off stuff at one gen away, which was providing food for kids, school going kids with food insecurity. And then a Nashville Food Project. So I think that was one of the biggest things that made me realize that food is such a healer. And right now,
Hmm.
also, we are working with TPA, which is the Touring Professional Alliance. And again, I mean, you're in the music industry, you know. Everybody who's in the music industry who's been touring, they've not been touring for 1 year, and
Yeah.
they're not going to be touring for another year, right? And the fact is that we are in the music city, so we've started working along with them, and once a week we are providing meals for people who are in the industry to just come and pick up food. um, and I'm always there because, to me, just that human interaction of telling people enjoy the meal is
Hmm.
so much more important than just giving the food. Because people, these are people who've worked so hard all their lives, and it takes a lot for them to just come and even pick up the food, right? And that, I think, is really important. So yeah, to me, I mean, that's why I'm in food, because it changes people's lives. I mean, one person at a time.
Mm. That's really, really beautiful. I have two more questions for you. Uh, the first one is, what would you say to other girls who are girls now at this age, and who are coming up in this age of, social media, and always having to feel like we've got to compare ourselves to other people, and there's so many pressures. You're somebody who really found a way to just be you. How could you impart that to girls or boys, for that matter, who are young right now, and encourage them to show up as themselves?
It's really interesting, and this is really close to home because I have you know, I mean, at home we've got a 9-year-old and a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son.
Mm.
And literally, there are times that we've heard, "What do you want to do when you get older?" "Oh, I want to be a YouTuber." And you're like, "Okay, fine. Talk to us about content," right? Like, we are not going to tell you no, but you've got to make your informed decisions. But
Yeah.
every day, like, we have a conversation of like, you know uh, the fact is, like, I tell stories to them of me being young and spending my entire childhood climbing trees and thinking that we were pirate ships. And I mean, we didn't have screen time at that time, but
Yeah.
like, so and it's interesting because my daughter is like, she's like, "You're weird." I'm like, "Yeah, and being weird is great." And there is absolutely no reason in, everybody has to make their own identity, in the sense that there are no two people alike, right? So no matter how much you try to fit in, you never will, because no two people are alike. And
Mm.
not fitting in is the most beautiful thing ever, because then you stand out. And and to stand out is incredible, because people notice. But the fact is that as soon as you start acting somebody who you're not, people will notice that too.
Mm,
just be true to yourself, and just like,
mm,
we are not in we definitely are no longer in the age where, oh, what is our neighbor going to say? Let them say, that's their problem, right?
yeah.
Like, you've got to be true to yourself. And it's so funny, earlier you were saying that, um, whenever I see you on TV, you're so welcoming and stuff. I'm like, you probably have never seen me compete. Because once I start competing, I'm like, really? But I think that is it. It's, and also I think the big thing that people should realize is that if you're not yourself, it takes so much more energy trying to act being somebody else.
Yeah.
If you're yourself, then it takes a lot less energy, and you can put more energy in making yourself a happier person, if that makes
Mm,
any sense.
that does make a lot of sense. The final question I have is that this is the Stay Human podcast, and we ask everybody at the end of it, what does it mean to you to be a human being, and how do you stay human?
I think, to me, one of the biggest things, to stay human, is empathy,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
I think there is a lot of sympathy in the world, but there isn't a lot of empathy in the world. I mean,
Hmm.
just take a minute to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and as soon as you do it, you will realize that you're going to be a lot more of a kinder person,
Yeah.
because you wouldn't want to hear what at times you yourself say to somebody. And this is not only face to face. I mean, this is one of the biggest things with social media. The fact
Hmm.
that people think that they can say things
Yeah.
behind a facade. And just for 1 second, just think of yourself being in somebody else's shoes, like what you're telling. If you don't want to hear it, don't say it. It actually, it doesn't take a lot for a person to be kind, and it just will be one person at a time to make it a kinder world. And at times I get really, like, I mean, even at times I get some nasty messages on social media, and I'm like, this makes no sense. And then I just want to engage, and I want to say something nasty, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no, delete. You wanted my attention, I'm not giving you my attention, delete.
Boom.
So
Gone.
that's
Love
that's
that.
what it's all about.
I love that, Maneet. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I can't wait to come because now I'm so hungry. I can't wait to come to one of your restaurants. So, if folks want to get to know more about you and follow you and know about your shows, or how can they do it? And tell us the name of your restaurants, your books, all these things.
Absolutely. So, I mean, they can follow me on Instagram, which I'm most active on Facebook or Twitter. It's at Maneet Chauhan. And if you reach out to me, I mostly will, I'm really good at replying. Our restaurants here in Nashville are called Chauhan Ale and Masala House. We have Tanso, which is a Chinese concept, Mockingbird, which is a modern, diner Americana concept, and Chattable, which is an Indian street food concept. I have two books. One is Flavors of My World, and the second is Chaat, which is shamelessly displayed right behind, right over there, which has just come out, and it's about Indian street food. And yeah, I mean, you can catch me on Food Network, on Chopped, etc., etc. And yeah, I'm always busy and always trying to get into trouble.
Good stuff, Maneet. All right. Go back to sleep with your kids. Go give them a good cuddle. And thank you for being on the Stay Human podcast today. And I hope that if you're ever in Nashville, you have an opportunity to go there. In fact, just go to Nashville just for the food. That isn't it called
Yeah,
Food City? That's what it's known for, right?
exactly. Food
Nashville.
and
Yeah.
music. I mean, the
Yeah.
best of both the worlds right over here.
All right. This has been Maneet Chauhan on the Stay Human podcast. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.